a headline up here. Okay, so let me zoom in. So a lot of what I was talking about last class was talking about how to use, make sure you choose a headline that kind of matches the time frame, right? Matches the artist, maybe matches the time frame of the artist, right? And so how I did this font right here was I kind of used the create outlines. Again, the create outlines option converts your font to objects, and then once it's an object, you can manipulate it, right? Now, if you look at this, this was not normally, this is not just scaled. This is where I took the actual dots that are in the font and I pulled it down. So I'm going to demonstrate that again so we can think about that, okay? So I'm going to kind of demonstrate again how I left off. So let me remove this. Okay, again, think of the time frame. And we looked at some of the posters, right, that Toulouse-Lautrec made here. So if we type in some text, and, oh, no, I didn't copy and paste it. Let me undo. There. I can't spell it again, so I have to leave it there. H-E-N-R-I-D-E-T-O-U-L-O-U-S-E L-A-U-T-R-E-C. Okay. So we have some text. Again, we looked at DA font. You can download a specific font. So I'm not necessarily thinking too much of the font itself, but I'm thinking about how to manipulate the font so it looks like it does from the time frame. If you looked at his posters, he had fonts that were kind of long and skinny, right? If you looked at the posters we were looking at last time. So I'm going to choose a kind of font that matches maybe the time frame, but not necessarily hold on, this is a little big. There we go. And I'm not sure about this font. Which one did I have last time? This one's a little better. And it's pretty stretched out. There we go. So again, think about the headline that you use. In this case, I have a font. There's a variety of different ways you can manipulate the text. I'm going to cover a couple of them right now. Again, if you want to leave it as a font and you want to apply certain special effects to it, the best way to do that would be underneath the Appearance window. Under Appearance window. Again, under the Appearance window, you can apply several different effects by using a new fill. Right? And if you use a new fill, we can then go and use a gradient. I think I demonstrated that last class, how you can use a gradient. So if you want to apply a gradient to your text, make sure you use that. Again, a gradient is an easy way of manipulating. If you want the gradient to go a different way, you can change the angle. There we go. And so, of course, gradients weren't very popular back then, so you might not want to use it. I might just use a little bit of a gradient here. Maybe at the very top. There we go. I just wanted you to see that you could use a gradient. In addition, there's a variety of ways that you could add things like a stroke, like you see up here. There's a stroke around my object. With the stroke, you don't necessarily have to add a new stroke. I think you can actually go over here to the stroke option that's up here and apply a stroke. So the main purpose of what I'm trying to talk about at this point is to manipulate the text by converting it into an object. So right now, in order to stretch this text the way I did up here in this example that I ended with last class, I actually used I converted it to an object. So to convert your text to an object, you go underneath the Type, Create Outlines. So by going under Type, Create Outlines, your text then will become an object. Once your text becomes an object, then you can manipulate the points, right? You can manipulate, because it's all points now. And so to give that kind of stretchy effect, if that's a word, stretchy effect, I selected all the points by drawing a box around the bottom of my letters like that. So just by drawing using the white or direct selection tool, drawing the points along the bottom, and then pulling down, hold the shift key down, gives you a nice there, and then exaggerating the bottom of the text like that. So that's sort of how I got the look. And oops, look how it messed up the A though. Do you see how it messed up the A right here? So you might need to go in there. Remember, once you convert your text to an object, you have points in there. You can go in there and adjust your points. Let's go. There, that's a little better. There we go. What do you guys think? Is that a cool headline? No? Maybe? Does it look like it fits in the genre time frame?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I need your help. We're
Color
not.
maybe. I'm not sure.
Which one? The R?
No, I was just looking at him. I think it fits. I'm just not sure quite about the color.
Yeah, the color's not very good, but hey, we did something. So make sure you think about your font. Your headline's very important. Okay? Type of font. Some things you might want to consider doing besides that is you can, there's a variety of different effects you can apply to your fonts. There's different ways of making gradients. It just depends on your artist and how it fits in. The other thing I like to do is of course put the time frame that he lived. So I'm going to go, and of course you want to rewrite your text, but I'm going to go and steal from Wikipedia, right? Best place to start your research is Wikipedia. And so here we go. So I'm going to do my research here a little bit into so some of the other things I'm going to add to my layout, of course, might be the time frame of when they lived. So again, he was born on November 1964 and died 1901. Yes. So you might want to put, I'm going to put in 1864, 1901. Again, following the same kind of font style, so it matches this. Of course, I probably wouldn't have this as large, and I might want to choose the color. No, it's not going to let me suck up that red. Not going to let me do it, is it? There we go, a deep red there. So something like that might be a good add-on to my text. So in my poster, or artist statement, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to have some text up here that kind of goes all the way across. This is still a little big. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. I don't like things being so big. And then as I make things, I want things to be aligned. Alignment is super important to everything you do. So in this case, how can I help align things? I'm trying to make the edges easy. So probably the easiest ways to align things is to use a guideline. So what is a guideline? A guideline is a kind of like an invisible line that you can put in your layout that you can use to align things to. So in this case, I'm going to have some text that kind of goes down and around the shape here, and it's going to kind of go in this area here. So I want some text to be kind of written up here. And the text that I write up here is going to wrap around his body shape, you know, the shape right here. But I want to make sure that everything is aligned right here. I want to make sure it aligns with the title and my text here, my date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the rulers option. The rulers option is under View, Rulers, Show Rulers. And once you bring up the rulers, it'll show you 0, 0 in the upper left corner. So whatever you do in life on the computer, let it be programming or web design or even in InDesign or in Illustrator and Photoshop, 0, 0 is always in the upper left corner. Right? If I was going to place anything on the screen, I always place it according to the upper left corner right here. See, 0, 0. So I want to make a guideline so that everything lines up vertically here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cursor in the ruler itself right here. And I'm going to hold my left mouse down. I'm going to drag out, and it drags an invisible line out that is called a guideline. Now when I draw something, it can snap to the guideline. That way you know it's aligned, right? If I move something, like let's say I move this text, watch. I'm going to move this text, and then watch, I'm going to move it back, move it back, move it back, move it back, and boom. It'll actually snap to it. It'll snap to the edge. And let me zoom in. And so the guideline is a great way to make sure things snap. Now, sometimes when it's exaggerating this, you might need to cheat a little bit because that doesn't look aligned. That looks a little better. So I actually cheated a little bit. Fonts sometimes are a little larger, because they have space around them. In addition, the 1 and the 8 don't look very good next to each other. How can I fix the 1 and 9 and 1 and 8? What is the technique I could use to fix those? How do you fix the spacing between two characters? What's it called? Kerning. Let's all say it together. Kerning. Kerning can be used to fix the space between two letters. Okay, good. Here's how you do it. Put your cursor between the two letters. Go to your characters window. In the characters window, you see one that looks like an A and a V next to each other. Set the kerning between two characters, it says, when I roll my mouse over that. So then I can go over there and I'm going to use a negative value to bring the space in. Negative 75. You could type in any number you want in there. Negative 100. Whoosh. Same with this one. Negative 100. Notice how that looks a lot better now. Did you see that? Does it look better to you? Who says it looks better?
Yeah.
Yes, it looks better? Okay, good. Now, can I do that to my title? No, because what did I do? I converted it to an object, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, let's wrap some text. Okay, so here's the text wrapping part. So I'm going to make a text box. Remember when we first started using the text tool inside of Illustrator, I said there's a couple ways you can use the text tool. You can click with the mouse and type some text, but that's not going to put it in a box. Usually use a text box if you want the text to wrap. And what wrap means is as it gets to the end of the line, it'll wrap around something, right? So when I'm using the text tool right here, I'm going to click on the text tool itself. I'm going to put my cursor where the guide is right here. I'm going to hold down my mouse and I'm going to drag a box. And I want it to kind of go over to the edge of the C over here. And notice there's no guideline over here, so it's not snapping. That's where the guideline would have came in helpful on this side too. So I'm going to undo that for a moment. Let me undo that type for a moment. Let's put another guideline out. I'm going to put it over here to the edge of his name right here. See where the edge of his name is right here? Let's put another guideline there. Now I'm going to draw my text out. And watch what happens when I get to the edge of the guideline. Boom. It snaps. Boom. You gotta use that sound effect too. Boom. it snaps. Isn't that cool? Okay, so now we're going to put some text in. Now, of course, you've sat down and you spent like 2 hours writing up a really good report all about the artist and all his wonderful things that he did, or bad things he did, whatever you did. I don't know. You should type up, though, and shouldn't just copy from Wikipedia like I do. Okay, I'm going to steal from Wikipedia, though. Here we go. Here we go. So I'm going to steal some text from Wikipedia by copying and pasting into Illustrator. And so I have some text here. Okay, so if I look at my text, there's a lot of problems with it. One is it's too big for my box. Notice when you copy and paste into a box in Illustrator, one of the things you'll notice is if there's more text than fits in the box, you'll have a little plus. See in the lower corner here, see the little plus? That little plus is telling me, hey, there's more text there. So there's more text than like fitting in my box. Okay? Are you guys cold yet? You want me to turn the air conditioning down a little bit? I'm starting to get cold. Maybe I'm hungry. Remember Saturday. Class in this room. 9 o'clock. We'll be late. Okay, here we go. So again, you have a little plus right here. It means there's more text. So let's manipulate our text. There's a lot of problems with it. The text is too big. You know, 21-point text is pretty big. Plus, there's too much. There's not enough space between the line height. Remember when we were talking about the text on the screen, right? If we look at this text right now, we have lines of text like this. Okay. Okay. So we have left align to, right align. We have 2 lines that are important. These are called the baseline. Base line. So right now, if we look at this text, it looks awful tight. The reason why it's tight is because, of course, the font's too big and the line spacing is too much. Okay, so line spacing is between 2 lines of text, also referred to as leading. And where does the word leading come from? Well, back in the old printing days, right, we used to use something called a letterpress. In order to add space between the lines, you would put a thing of lead in between. Okay, a little thin piece of lead, and you could build them up to add more space between them. And so the word leading comes down from those days. In fact, when I was in high school, my actual high school had letterpress. And we had a letterpress class. I used to go in there, and I could make my own flyers with a letterpress. I'd get the little letters, and I'd put each letter down, and put the little leading in between. Yeah. It was fun. I don't think the state of California would do that anymore, but I lived in Pennsylvania. We had a different era too. Okay, so let's manipulate this text. Then we needed to wrap around his shoulder down here. See how his shoulder, the text goes over his shoulder too. So here we go. I'm going to select all the text by selecting the entire box by clicking on the black arrow, right? So when you have the text tool and you put in your text, when you're done with the text tool, go to the selection tool, because then you can universally, you don't have to select the text, but as long as the whole box is selected, you can make changes to it universally, if that's a word. Yeah, universally is a word. I'm going to go down to maybe 14 point or maybe 18 point. How about that? That's about fits just barely. Still too big, not enough line space. I'm going to get rid of this junk at the end here. Okay, maybe capitalize my first letter. And then again, go back to your text tool. If you have the selection tool here, I'm going to go and change the line spacing. 18 points is a little big. I'm going to actually go down to 17. So if I click in the text tool, you'll notice it goes from 14 to 18 to 21, and you're like, well, what about 14? Well, that's too small. 18's too big, so what do you think I can do? I can actually type in a number there, 17. That looks a little better because I'm going to add some line spacing in there. Do you think you can use a decimal in here? Who thinks we can use a decimal? Nobody thinks we can use a decimal? Yeah, we can use a decimal in there. What if I want 16.5? I can put in 16.5. Hey, 16.5 works. Okay, so you can use decimals inside of the measuring of a point size. And then you say, well, why do I have to use points? Well, that's just the size there. Okay, let's look at the leading here. So in this case, in my character window, we can use the point size with decimal places. Notice how it automatically puts the leading in here because the illustrator is trying to calculate. Notice how it's larger. It's larger. In general, your leading is your line spacing is going to be larger than your point size. In fact, in the old days, and I'm going to go back to old days because I'm an old person. Back in the old days, we used to have to do what's called layout and copy, which means you would cut out letters and glue them down on a piece of white board with blue lines, and then we would have that shot with a giant camera that's the size of a wall, and it would then be made into a plate that you would put on a printing press and print out. And so in order to do all that, it was a lot of process, it was a lot. But you as the designer, you might not be the person typing in the text. You might be the person trying to figure out where the text goes on the layout. And what we used to do is draw, I would draw like 14, 16 on the board. And the person who was making the text, they would use a linotype machine, is what it was called. It was called a linotype machine before this kind of thing. They had a machine linotype. And what this would tell the person who's typing in the text in a linotype machine, that you want to use 14.5 with 16-point leading, okay? And that would be on the board itself. And then they would go and make the text, and they would then give it to you, and then you would cut it out and put it on the board. But this was a way to designate. So usually the line height was bigger than the point size, right? Because if you look at that, if I go down here and I try and say, okay, how about 16.5, and then I go down here and let's make the line height even 14. Look at that. See how it's jammed together? We can zoom in. Look at that. The top of the letters are jamming with the bottom of the letters. Really hard to read that too, isn't it? It's really hard to read. So usually if I'm using 16, I would go, I'm a big believer. I'm going to go all the way up to 20, maybe 21 points here. Let's hit tab. Oh, that's nice. Nice space. Maybe even a little bit more. 22. Maybe even a little more. 24. Oh, too much. 23. Now you don't want too much because then there'll be too much of a gap. But that looks pretty good. Okay, so the other thing that we're dealing with right now is the hyphenation. What is hyphenation? Well, whenever you're typing in columns of text, if a word is too long, it might split it and put the little dash in there and put part of the word down here, right? The word is hyphenation that is used to describe where long words will maybe split at the end of a column and then hyphenated with a little dash. Okay, we call this ragged right. So this type that we're looking at right here, and I know we haven't talked too much about type yet, but when we're looking at type, you can make some words, okay? And you should know these words, you as a designer, right? I'm a designer, I'm talking to somebody, okay? When I'm looking at this text right now, it's referred to as flush left, because it's all lined up on the left, but ragged right. What does ragged right mean? Well, it's not flush, it's not straight, right? Ragged right. What if I had it flush on the left side and flush on the right? What would that be called? Justified. Okay? And of course, flush on the left and ragged, or flush on the right and ragged on the left would be ragged left. Okay? So, you know, I don't like hyphenation too much. It just depends. Let's look at how to turn it off if we don't want it. Or try justified maybe. I don't know. Let's try it. Let's see what it does. To turn off the hyphenation is underneath the paragraph option inside of Illustrator. So if you don't see paragraph option, of course you can always go under Window, Type, Paragraph. Window, Type, Paragraph. And here's the paragraph option. In the paragraph option, you'll see there's a checkbox at the bottom that says hyphenation. If you uncheck that, it'll turn it off. It'll turn it off. On, off. On, off. One of the ones that's kind of messing it up is this Toulouse-Lautrec is kind of hyphenated here. I might remove that. I'm going to get rid of that little dash in there. There we go. Is that needed? Probably not. Like cool with that? Hyphenation. Now you can adjust the hyphenation. We'll talk about that later. Plus we'll justify some text later. Let's talk about the wrapping. Wrapping. So right now the text, and let's zoom in. Oops. Be careful of using the space bar for the hand. Okay, you'll notice that my text goes over his shoulder here, right? The text goes over his shoulder. So we want the text to wrap. So it wraps around his shoulder. So text wrapping is very popular. You see it in magazines. You see it on the internet all the time, right? You read an article on the internet. Text wraps around a photo. Text wraps around. So it's very popular. There's some steps and rules you need to follow to make the wrapping work properly. Okay. Number one rule: the object and the text should be in the same layer. Right? You might have multiple layers. Right now I got a background layer, I have the portrait layer here, and then I have my text layer. So that's a problem, because right now if you look at that, this is my portrait. It's the object here is different than the object here. Oh, look at that. It's probably not going to work. Again, object is in this layer, layer 1, and the text is in layer 3. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is either move one to the other. I might move the text down because I want to keep these kind of separate. So I can actually click on the text layer itself and move it down above my portrait. How about that? Hey, now they're in the same layer. Next thing you want to do is, it depends on what's on top of the other. Is the object on top of the text, or is the text on top of the object? I can't remember which one needs to be on top of what. I can't remember. So we're just going to try it. I got the text on top of the object right now. So here we go. So I'm going to select my object and select my text, both of them. Use the shift key. You can click on two things at the same time. Use the shift key. Or if you want, you can select the little dots over here. See the little dots in the layer window right here? That helps you select things. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. Select both of them. Then to do the text wrapping is underneath object, text wrap, make. Text will wrap around all objects in the current selection, including type objects. I'm going to hit OK. And it didn't work. You're like, oh, what did I do wrong? Okay, well, like I just said, I couldn't remember which one needs to be on top of the other. Okay, so let me undo that. How about if we move the object above my text? How about that? Let's move the object above the text, and let's try again. Object, text wrap, make. Ah, it worked. See, I answered my own question right there. Put the object over top of the text, and then try it. Notice how there's kind of a space that goes around your object so that the text will wrap around it. Do you see that? Right? You can adjust that space so there's more space or less space. That is located underneath the object text wrap options. If you go there, you can then go and add. It's in a point size. You can see it right here. If you want more space, you can increase or decrease. I don't know why it's not moving, but that's what it's supposed to do. This object must be above the text in the same group to wrap. This order can be set in the layers panel. Isn't it not? This object, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but there is a way to adjust that. Maybe you need, maybe you have to click on the object itself. Now let's try it again. Maybe I didn't have the object selected. No.
Excuse me, click preview.
It might not. No, it's not letting me click preview. There's something wrong. It did wrap though, so there is a way. It doesn't look too bad right now. We'll do some more wrapping of more text down below. We're going to have columns of text down below here. But that's a good start to the top, right? The top of my poster looks pretty good. I got some text in there. I got some line spacing in there. I got my title in there. Oh, remember my background is there. Oh, look at that. Oh, we got to fix his portrait though. Remember some of the objects in his face need to be deleted. Yeah. Remember we did a background too. Okay, that's a good start. Let me pause my video for a moment. Run down here, as well as some images with text wrapping around the images. Before I do that, I'm going to move this stuff down a little bit. I'm going to select everything except for my background. Remember, I want to lock my background so it doesn't move. And I'm even going to turn my background off. The reason why I turn my background off when I'm working is so it doesn't have to re-render it every time. That slows it down. I'm going to move my artwork down a little bit because one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put some kind of images that go around the outside. And I'll show you what I mean. But in my poster or my artwork, I'm going to have something up here. I'm going to put like a little icon in this corner, 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 just to add to the flair of the poster thing. Okay, so I'm going to move my artwork down a little bit. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some guidelines in. Now we already have some guidelines on the screen here. Okay, this guideline over here, and then I'm going to make a guideline on this side over here. Okay, try and, I'm going to move that over a little bit so it's about the same. Then I'm bringing a guideline down here. And then I'm going to bring a guideline in between. So right now I want to have a gutter. What is a gutter? Well, a gutter is the space in the middle, okay, between two columns of text or three columns of text, whatever. The space between two columns or three columns of text, the space in the middle between columns of text is called a gutter. Right? Like you have gutters on your house where the water goes in, right? Gutter. Okay, it's called a gutter. Okay, so before I make my columns of text, I'm actually going to draw my gutter with the guidelines, so that when I make my boxes, they make them the same appropriate size. So I'm going to lay out with the guidelines. So let's think about this for a moment. Where is the actual center? So if this document, it looks like it's almost, is that 10 inches? No, this is what? This is 8 inches, 9 inches, 10 inches. 11. Oh yeah, that's right. We did 11 by 17, right? 11 by 17. So what's half of 11? What's the middle of 11? Half of 11 is what? 5.5. Okay, so the center of this document is 5.5. So I'm actually going to drag a guideline out, and as you drag a guideline out, the option I want you to bring up is called Info. The window. There's a window called Info. So if you go under Window, there's one that says Info. Do you see this one? It's called Info. Info is a very useful pop-up menu inside of Illustrator because what it'll do is it'll give you information of what's going on. How big is an object? How much you're scaling it? As you move something across the screen, it'll tell you that. So as I'm moving the guideline across, I don't want to try and guess by looking at the thing. The info window will tell you where it's at. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to bring up the info window. It's under Window Info, and it's right here. So it gives you different information. Again, it'll tell you scaling of something or the X and Y coordinates of something. Remember, everything's measured from the upper left corner. Right? Remember, this is 0. This is 0, 0 up here. So here we go. I put my cursor inside of the ruler over here, and I'm going to start clicking and dragging, and it's not giving me info, so I lied. Usually it does. Oh, after I release it, it gave me info. That didn't really help. Why is it not show options? Hold on. Show options? Oh, there it goes. Now it's showing me. Maybe you have to release it first. Now it's showing me. So exactly in the middle would be, what did we say, 5.5? Right there. That's exactly in the middle. So you can see it right here, 5.5. So this guideline's right in the middle. But of course I don't want necessarily in the middle. I want maybe, if I want a gutter of, let's say, a ½ inch. I want a 1/4 inch on the left and a 1/4 inch on the right. So we want to make a guideline that's 5.25 on one side and then 5.75 on, is that a 1/4 inch? Yeah, on the other side. So here we go. I'm going to drag another guide out, and that's going to go all the way to, and it's not changing, but when I release the mouse and then move the guide, I can see the numbers. I don't know why it doesn't show me when I first start, but we want to do 5.25. And then you say, well, can't I just type it in? Wouldn't that be much easier to type it in? It would. It would. And I can't type it in here. It's an alignment window. Hold on. Alignment window. I have to think about this for a moment. Too many windows, not enough time. How about we zoom in? There we go. The more you're zoomed in, the more precise it'll be. I know there's got to be a way I can type this in. What do we want? 5.25, right? This is 5.26. It's being messed up by something that's next to it. That's why. If you're having problems and things are snapping like this, see how things are snapping and it's not letting me move this precisely because it wants to snap to something? You might need to turn the snapping off. You might need to turn snapping off. Snapping is located under View, Snap. You got Snap to Point, Snap to Grid, Show Grid. So I'm going to say, I'm going to turn off Snap to Point, and now I'm going to try and move the guideline. And now it's still snapping. It's still snapping the points. Let me try again. Snap, snap, snap to grid, snap. Smart guides. Oh, there's 5.25. I had it. There we go. 5.25 on that side, and let me click again, and I'm going to make, what did I say, 5.27? No, 5.75, right? There we go. So I have a ½ inch gutter going right down the middle of my document. Okay? So there's a way to do it. You might have to eyeball it and take turn some snapping off to make it work right and things like that, but it is possible. Okay, so let's make some columns of text. So to make the columns of text, I'm going to use the text tool again. This time I'm going to actually draw the box so it snaps to the edge. Now don't draw the second side over here. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing you do is I'm going to draw a box on this side over here. Again, I'm not going to go all the way to the bottom. I'm going to kind of keep it up a little bit because I'm going to add some artwork down there. So here's one column of text. Now, you don't have to draw the second column. What's going to happen is I'm going to put some text in here, and as it fills in the area, you're going to get that little plus at the bottom, right? That says, hey, you need more space, right? So then I'm going to click on that, and then click up above, and it'll actually make the second column the exact same size as the first column. It'll make the second column the exact same size as the first column. So let's put some text in here. Let's find some text to put in here. Of course, you would type all your wonderful text. You wouldn't just steal from Wikipedia, would you? No, you wouldn't just steal from Wikipedia, would you? There we go. I want some nice written text. You should think about it. This should be something that you want to put in your portfolio, right? This should be something that looks. You should make everything in this class perfect every time, so you can include it in a nice portfolio that you put online, and then you can send that portfolio to some businesses, and they want to pay you, $50 an hour to come and do some illustrations for them, right? Who's it with me? Some of us are with
I
me.
lost the flash.
I guess we can transfer too. I have lots of students transfer. San Jose State, CCA, San Francisco State is always a good one to go to. I have a counselor coming in next class. He'll talk to you. Okay? And so he'll want to meet you, and he'll give you lots of options, and he'll talk about transferring with you, and he'll talk about educational plans. So there'll be a counselor next class, so be ready for that. Okay, let's paste our text in here. I'm going to go under Edit, Paste. Now here's a problem with doing that. Again, it's going to paste with the little plus down below. See it right here? So again, there's more text than that what fits in there. In addition, since I copied and pasted from Wikipedia, it takes all the stupid characters from the web page and brings that over too. The nice thing about Illustrator is it recognized that I used the font up here and my line spacing that I used up here, and it kept those settings and used the same settings when I made the next box. Do you notice how the font is the same and the line spacing the same? Do you see that? Illustrator's smart. It said, hey, you remember when we made this box up here? Hey, you want to use the same settings here. So, it's smart. To make the second column, I click on the little plus that's down here using you can use the black selection tool, whatever, the regular selection tool. I click on the selection tool here. I can click on the little, see the little X that's in the bottom? Click on that. Notice how my cursor changes to like this cursor with the, this is basically the text column making icon, I guess you would call that. It's a column making icon. And I'm going to click in the corner right here where my two blue lines meet. And boom. Wow, I even have more than fits in there. Do you see that? I even get another red X. That's okay. I'm going to adjust some of my spacing, so maybe all my text will fit once I adjust it. I need to get rid of this. There's extra white space here. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. There we go. Now, what is a paragraph break, right? A paragraph break, and let's get rid of this right here. Okay, I'm going to make a paragraph break there. And then let's make it. So paragraph break is where you hit the return key, right? Enter key. Right? There's a paragraph break there. I'm going to make a paragraph break here. And I'm going to make a paragraph break here. I'm going to worry about the rest of the text for right now. Why did I make some paragraph breaks? Okay. Well, in this case, Illustrator is kind of like Microsoft Word. You can do the same thing in Microsoft Word. Anybody use the MLA format in their English paper? Who uses the MLA format, right? What is the paragraph format for the MLA? A ½ an inch for each paragraph, right? So let's try and follow that. I'm going to use a ½ an inch indent. A ½ an inch, and you don't want to do things by hand, right? You do things by hand and then it tries to wrap everything and it's not going to wrap right. So in the paragraph option right here inside of Illustrator, I'm going to select my paragraphs, okay, by clicking this tool, again the black tool right here, and it has both paragraphs of text selected. Notice in the paragraph option inside of Illustrator, you have this option right here. It's the second one, and this one is called first line left indent, right? That's just like the MLA format. So I want to bring it in, and now I can't measure by inches, so I'm going to kind of fake it a little bit, but I'm going to click. Notice how I'm clicking, you'll see the paragraph option will be indented. Did you see that? I'm zoomed out a little bit, but look how I'm clicking. So that's why I use paragraph breaks in my text so that my text can wrap. Or not wrap, I meant like indent. What do you guys think? Cool? Now you might need to adjust your text a little bit. There's some problems with my text here. I don't like some of it. It's kind of blocky text. I'm not even sure I like this font. What's wrong with this font is it's just boring. But of course you don't want to use any crazy font that it's hard to read. This one's a little boring in my mind. I don't know. It's just boring. If you want, you can also, of course, justify your text. So if we select our text, and in the paragraph option, you'll see there's one that says justify right here. Justify with last line aligned left. So that makes it perfectly square. The downfall of using the justification, which makes both sides nice and even, which makes it nice and, you know, it looks good because you have nice and even on both sides. You tend to get lines like this, though. Look at this. From, look at this big gap, 18, look at this big gap, until big gap. Did you see that right there? It makes these giant gaps between there, because what it's doing is it's spreading the words out across the line so that they're on both left and right. So justify, you know, you might have to go in there and tweak your font around. I mean, it looks pretty good, but what's messing this line up right here is this word is really long right here, so it can't squeeze it up there. So that's why it's doing that, you know. So you might need to delete a word, add a word. You know, you're the writer. Fake it a little bit. Right? Fake it. I don't know. So, Justified's okay. I don't know if I kind of, I'm used to this one. Still doesn't look great, but let's continue. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show some samples of the artist's work, right? I'm going to show some samples of the artist's work. So let's bring in some images, make sure that they're linked or not linked and they're embedded so that we don't have linking problems. So let's import. So I'm going to place by going under File, Place, File, Place. And I'm going to go to find some of my samples. I don't know which ones. Ooh, I like that one. That's the poster one. There's another. Let's do one poster. I don't know what poster you want to use. That one, or that one. And then we'll do one of his paintings. This one or this one. Okay, this one kind of works with my background color, I think. But this one might stand out better with my background color. It's just kind of dark. I like this one. So I'm going to place this one. Again, when you're placing an image using the latest version of Illustrator, in the older versions of Illustrator, it didn't give you an option to draw the image. You had to it would just place it in there, whatever the original pixels were. But in this version of Illustrator, it allows you to draw. Now, I don't want my image to go completely over a column. I want to kind of have it, and then I'm going to think about where I want it to put. And I'm going to kind of put it somewhere right about here. So I'm going to draw my picture. And let me bring in another painting. File, Place. I'm going to place another painting. There's another famous. I'm going to put it in this one over here. There we go. Okay, so I have two paintings of the artist, and I'm going to have these two columns of text wrap around them. Remember, the best way to do that is to have them in the same layer. I believe both of these, since we had that. In addition, again, if you look in the layer window, you'll notice it says linked file, linked file. Do you see that? Linked file, linked file. So again, these images that I just placed in Illustrator are not part of the Illustrator document. They're linked. So in order to get rid of the linking option so that what you want to do is embed. Embed means it becomes part of the Illustrator document. It's really easy to do. You can either right-click on it and, no, that didn't work. So isolate, select, no, let's not do that. Go to the link window. It's under Window, Links. Window, Links. in the links window, you'll see the two pictures that I just placed. See them both? They're both placed. You can select both of them in the linked window, and in the upper right corner of the linked window, there's a pop-up menu, and you say Embed Images right there. So again, by doing the embed images, those images then become part of Illustrator, and you don't have the linking problem. A lot of you had linking problems. This is how you fix it. Make sure you see that. Again, it's under Links, and it's under Embed Image. Okay. What is the problem with that, though, is it just adds to the file size of your Illustrator, right? If you take a bitmap and make it part of your Illustrator file, it's going to make it, the Illustrator file is going to be bigger. No. And then the other thing, the reason why you do linking is so that you can make changes later, right? If I wanted to go and maybe increase the contrast of this image, if it's a linked file, I go to Photoshop, increase the contrast, and it'll automatically update it inside of Illustrator because it's linked. But if you embed it in there, it's not linked anymore, and if you want to increase the contrast, you have to take it over to Photoshop and then re-import it and embed, you know.
How do you make it so it's embedded?
Under the links window, I don't know, links window, in the upper corner, embed, right here. It says unembed now, but embed. And you see the new icon change.
So I could try to return in that one with doing that?
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Okay, let's wrap our text around our artwork now. So in addition, I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to select I'm going to select both columns of text, and my my images. And if I want to do the wrapping again, remember the images are on top of the text, right? See them on top, right? Go under Object, Text Wrap, Make, and hit OK. And it should wrap around the text. Now there's some things you might need to adjust to make it look good. Right now it doesn't look very good. So let me zoom in and I'll talk about what I mean. So once I did that, you'll notice that, you know, I have this big gap on the top. See it right here? So I might need to take my image and kind of use my arrow tool to kind of align things a little better. That looks a little better. I would like the, you know, the top of the painting to kind of line up with the text over here. The bottom is not much of a problem for me, but the top is a little bit. The other thing that doesn't look good is that the picture itself doesn't really doesn't have a frame around it. So if you look at it, it's kind of just sitting there. I might use a rectangle, make a rectangle that has no fill but a black stroke, and kind of just put a line around my thing. There we go. Does that look a little better? Kind of, you know, put a little, all I did was put a black rectangle with no fill around my painting, so it has a frame, right? You don't put a painting on the wall without a frame on it. So, and then of course you can color that. It doesn't have to be black. I just made it black, but that makes it look a lot better. Put a little black rectangle around there. Do the same with the other one. Over here, here's one here. Again, I would probably move it up a little bit so that something aligns a little better there. See how it lines a little better? And I'm trying to line the top of this with the top of that. And then go and put a nice frame around it. Nice frame around. Uh-oh, why don't I have a stroke here? Am I missing a stroke here? No? No stroke? Why do I have none here? I don't know what that did. Why is my... Come on, give me some color here. There we go. Okay. So that makes it a little nicer, doesn't it? Right? So be very careful of what you're doing. Make sure detail, make sure alignment is good. When I do the critique up here, I look at every little detail and I'll even point them out to, hey, you didn't do this, or you didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. I see everything. And of course, let's put our background on, see what it looks like with the background color. Oh, look at that. It's starting to come along. You want to hide the guidelines so you can see it without the guidelines. You can go under View, and there's a Guidelines Hide, not here, Hide Guidelines. There, so you can see it without the guidelines. Okay, it's missing something. I need, I want something to bring the top and the bottom kind of together, maybe. I don't know. But it's a good start. Good start. I don't know, it's missing something. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it a good start? It needs something that make it look a little bit more interesting. It's just like it's floating there. There's nothing really bringing it all together. Well, the best thing to do might be to let me print it out and look at it. I like to print things out. Print it out on 8.5 by 11. It doesn't have to be the full size, but when you print it out, then you can sit there and you can look at it and make some decisions. So think about this. This paper is 11 by 17. How can I print it out on that laser printer over there? Well, there's two options. One is to scale it down so it fits in the 8.5 by 11 page, or you can do what's called tiling. Tiling. What tiling is where it'll cut the paper up so it'll print out a different section, and then you can kind of tape it together so it's one big one. Okay, so you got two options for a laser printer. Well, that laser printer actually prints out bigger paper too. I guess we could do that. It does print out. It prints out 11 by 17 too. I guess we could do that.
What size do we choose again?
For what?
Just for the whole thing.
Bigger than 8.5 by 11. You make the decision.
Okay.
So again, if you're stuck, if I go under File, Print right now, I want to go check it out. Again, it doesn't fit right here. You'll see it. Doesn't fit my 8.5 by 11 paper. So one thing you can do is you can scale it, fit to page right here where it says scaling. Scaling fit to page. That'll fit it to the 8.5 by 11 page. And then you hit print. It'll go over there and print. Another option is under File, Print. Instead of saying scale page, you can do tile full pages right here. Tile full pages. What that does is, again, it'll split it up and it'll print out four different pages. Right? 4 different pages. You can see the little thumbnail. And then you can glue them together. Great way to do a proof. See if that's what you want. At a larger size. You can actually move it around and choose where it cuts it. See that? As well as you can make it overlap. There's an overlapping. So if you turn the overlapping up, what that does is it'll print a little of both so that it makes it easier for you to cut it and put it together. If you do a little overlapping right here. Or I believe that there is a bigger size over there. Tabloid is over there. Tabloid. I believe they have bigger paper over there. Let's try that. I believe there is 11 by 17 over there. Yeah, the bottom tray over here has a bigger piece of paper. Did that before. New for me. Okay. I'm gonna stop talking now. Let me save what we did. I'll put the video online. We'll finish this next week.